Hi everybody, my name is Afua Richardson. I am a comic book artist, illustrator, graphic designer, as well as a singer, songwriter, musician. I have a lot of backslashes on my card. But I've been a creative professional for a little over 9 years now, working with Marvel, DC, Image Comics, as well as having clients, including Disney American Idol, and AT&T, which isn't that great, but hey.
They pay. They probably pay festivals for comic companies.
And I hope I can spill some of the goods for you. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Turkey. I work with Games That Work, and I've been with them since 2005 here in Atlanta. We work on serious games. We do a lot of, it's kind of broad, games for teaching health, games for training the military, games for training business students. So it's kind of not very focused in that aspect, except for all of our games are trying to solve problems. The work I have done there has varied because it's a small company, so I came in as content manager, which was kind of like the artist. And but as we fluctuated with different projects coming in, the art staff would fluctuate as well. So we would have many times students right out of college coming in working for us. So I've looked at a lot of right out of college portfolios during that time, and so I've seen a lot of them. I've hired a lot of them.
Well, let's get cell phones turned off, if you don't mind. I'm getting some great rhythms going on, but hey.
Hey folks, so my name is Dean Velez. I am a motion graphics artist, a cartoon illustrator, a teacher. Don't have any other skills actually besides those, which is kind of sad. Have none. It's like a steep cliff. I am also a graduate of the Art Institute. Yeah. 92, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That's where I learned to drink. Best part of my school experience. Straight out of school, I started as I did not go to school for motion graphics. I actually went to school for print. I have never worked in print. I've never done a print job. I came out of school and I went straight to cell animation. I have no idea how they hired me. I have no idea why they hired me. I did cell animation for about a year, jumped over, small company, I think it exists in some form or fashion. It's called You're the Star. From there, I got hired at Univision Network in Miami. I was, and this is dating myself, I was a Quantel paintbox artist. It does not exist. Go look for it. You ain't gonna find it. It was a $500,000 to work. This is how much the machine cost. It had 6 fonts. It had no layers. And you painted a blur by stroking on the screen. That's 1%, that's 2%. So imagine to get to 100% blur, you're really working it. From there, I jumped over to St. Petersburg, Florida. I was again, don't know how I got this job, I was the art director of a local news station. Basically, that's where I found out what an art director actually means. And I hired my whole staff. We can talk a little bit more about that while we're talking. From there, went to New York, worked for Fox Network. From there, came to Atlanta. I was the art director of Channel 11 for 5 years. I was also the corporate art director of Gannett Broadcasting. So Gannett Broadcasting owns Channel 11 and 21 other TV stations. So I was the art director over 21 different artists, or 21 different art directors. From there, went to LA. I was the Adobe Video Demo, blah, 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 very technical term. But it was basically I was in LA to demo After Effects. So spent a year in LA, jumped back to New York. I was the art director of a place called Total Training. So everybody knows what lynda.com is, right?
Yes.
Okay, so before lynda.com was Total Training. Total Training never went to the web, so Linda sees power. Long, ugly tale of intrigue behind that. From there, I jumped back to Miami. I did a stint as a designer for a web company. I did not like it. Long live video. From there, came back to Atlanta, where I am currently the art director over at Magic Lantern Studios. Magic Lantern Studios has been in Atlanta for about 30 years. In that interim, I have taught since '96. I have actually had curriculum. I've written curriculum for motion graphics. Actually, the Art Institute, the other campus, actually was using my curriculum up until, I think, 2 years ago. I wrote the program for motion graphics for Chattahoochee Technical College. I have stuff in After Effects, all of some presets, those are mine. I worked for GenArts, 1,400 of those presets are mine. And basically, just recently in June, I started, opened up a school, kind of a hybrid training, as well as, it's a hybrid training school where it's a short track to trying to get you guys to know what you need to know for real world training. Basically, I'm trying to make sure you don't walk into my room and don't know stuff. So, and I met Andrew a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that's about the gist for me.
Do you think if we took everywhere you've been and like thumbtack and yarn, and just map your trajectory across the net, would it be art director or serial murderer? Would that be?
There's some stuff in the Midwest I'm not proud of.
Catch Josh at Laughing Skull.
Unbelievable. This guy. Josh Chudnowski, Drowning Monkeys Games. I've been making games for a loss for about 4 years now. Clearly not very good at it. I was making games for money from 2000 to 2005. That was fun. And my game, Dungeon Crawlers, was #1 RPG on iTunes for a couple weeks, and now I'm working on a new game, which will be a revival of arcade games. It's going to go into like Dave & Buster's, and it's going to go into barcades, and it's going to be classic sort of Donkey Kong type of thing. And I love cooking shows, guys. Love them. I love Hell's Kitchen. Love me some MasterChef. I will watch the heck out of that.
Can you cook?
You cook it, I'll watch you cook it. And then I'll eat it.
I think I found a Dungeon Crawler's pin in our studio today.
Oh yeah? That's me. I threw it in. And I'm a one-man show. It's just me coding. Like
How long has your company been called Drowning Monkey?
4 years. It was monkeys. I guess I got it short. Once now. I killed everybody. Actually, he killed them.
He hires contractors, apparently for everything.
That's how he ended up in
Then he ran the contractors.
I'm Art Roach. I've been in the business for a long time. I have worked on a Quantel paint box. I've been to Florida, and I know how to drink. Shared experience. I graduated with a drawing and painting degree, so fine art, and then went into newspaper graphics, was a graphics editor of a newspaper, and then went into magazines, and then went into motion graphic design at Turner Broadcasting, so I did motion graphics for a long time. I ended up at Cartoon Network, and I was creative director for CartoonNetwork.com from 2002 to 2009. Worked with Brad Merritt and those guys at Cartoon Network, built a bunch of games for pretty much all the games that you saw from 2002 to 2009 on Cartoon Network. I had something to do with. Lots of Flash games back then. After that, I was creative director for a kids virtual world called Animal Jam. It's still around, and it's got 10 million players right now, so a kids 2D virtual world. And then now I'm back in Atlanta doing freelance creative consulting for a bunch of different companies, but one thing I'm involved with a friend of mine is something called the Atlanta Game Cooperative, which we're a small kind of SWAT team of people. We just pull artists and developers together and kind of make games on the sly, and then we disappear into the mist. So,
ninja team. I'm breaking down doors.
So we're just getting started now, but you know, just trying to make games that way. So I've been all over the place. I cannot get you a job at Cartoon Network or Adult Swim, so don't ask. I just want to say that right up front. But I have enjoyed lots of great experiences with artists. So.
All right, you hard drinkers down the end, pass the Mountain Dew, if you would. And we'll get into this. So I thought we would go through a few different areas. Since I know a lot of people here are interested about getting into the industry. We'll talk about some of the worst things we have seen artists do to get jobs, portfolios, interviews, art submissions, cursing out the art directors, whatever. And then we'll move on into the job with things that, what are the mistakes they make on the job, the biggest mistakes folks have seen. At the end, we'll try and end up with some of those lists of what should you not do and what should you do. Arrangement. So to kick it off, we'll go ahead and start off discussing the portfolios. I'll start off with a light one, just because we talked about this right before the panel. I'll throw this one on out, and that is when graduation times comes at a lot of schools, a lot of companies start getting a lot more demo reels coming, a lot more resumes, a lot more submissions, and suddenly we'll start seeing the same vehicle or the same asset of some kind in everybody's portfolio for a week. Every portfolio that comes in will have the exact same asset. So either everyone is designing exactly the same piece, or somehow this one asset is jumping from person to person and into their reel. The amount of assets that I feel were not people's assets in their portfolios has been amazing. And I actually did have one other art director, not one who's on the panel here, call me up a day when he had received a portfolio that had one of his assets in it. And he was making sure to call around the industry and make sure that folks knew that, because he figured everyone would be seeing this resume soon. So I'll start with that one. I'll pass it on down. You want to go straight on down, or you want to jump in?
Goodness. I'm sure in school you guys have assignments where you essentially have to create things as per particular objective. And the big thing that ends up occurring, and even as you become a professional, is that the work that you get assigned supersedes your personal work. It needs to even out. There needs to become a point where you treat your ideas with as much validity as, you know, the things that you're either assigned to do or you're hired to do. Because just for said reason, everyone's going to be coming with the exact same thing. You know, so at what point do you make a distinction between what it is that you create, you know, that's assigned to you, and the thing that you have to bring as an artist? Because as a creative, it's your responsibility to communicate. Like, whether or not it's an idea, a product, an emotion, you are bringing what it is that you have to bring to the table. Now, if you would bring the exact same thing that someone else brings, you know, someone else might do it better. What makes the distinction? So you have to start not only start thinking outside of standardization. You start thinking like, okay, what is this voice that I have? What is this creative, you know, objective that I have? And what do I personally have to give with my work to be of service? Like, okay, there's something that's missing. How do I fill that niche? How do I, you know, keep true to myself, but, you know, not overload myself with all of these magnum opuses and never finish anything? So, yeah, that's my 3 cents.
What I'm going to say is that people a lot of times submit portfolios with college level work coming right out of college. And working in the industry, you want industry level work, which, you know, different studios are going to have people at different levels. You're not expected to have 10 years experience coming out of college, obviously, that some places would expect you to have 5 already. No, but the stuff you're doing in college is your training grounds. It's where you're first exposed to how to use the tools and how to model, how to animate. And you shouldn't expect that on your first exposure to this, that work is good enough to be in the industry. So if you have a college level portfolio, that's your first level of experience. So you shouldn't have, oh, I've got a character now for my character class. I've got character for my portfolio. I've got these assets from this modeling class. I've got assets for my portfolio. And so I think, you know, the most common thing I see in portfolios for people coming out of college is that first level of experience, which, I mean, you have less experience, but you need to push yourselves beyond what's your first exposure in class. I was just looking through some old submissions earlier today, or I guess. But this guy writes how he's dedicated and how he's skilled with timing, and he's got this it's well written about himself, about how hard of a worker he is. Yet he only submits one piece that's really low quality. And so it's, I can't look at what you write about yourself and believe it, because everyone's writing the same thing. But I can look at your work and see who knows the tools and who knows the art and who knows how to use the tools to create something that looks good, and who knows not only how to make a finished product that looks good, but can show the topology, that they understand the work behind that model, and who can show, you know, the UV layouts that look professional and not just like I have all this extra space on my UV map. I mean, you're coming right out of college, but you have to work beyond what your learning classes to create a professional portfolio.
I actually love that point. If it's not an asset you would see in a game, it shouldn't be in a portfolio for a company that's trying to publish games.
So I'm trying not to go horror story.
Go horror story.
Horror
Go
story.
horror story.
All
Go
right.
about the slaying.
So here's the thing. So the guys who send me stuff, you know, it's not the same stuff that, of course, they would send you for the gaming information. I usually get, you know, a finalized tape. I will honestly say, I do not read your resumes. I don't even care about them. I don't even read them. I read them if you're good.
Yeah.
I
They're
do
a
not-
second point. They're not your point of
Okay,
entry.
you are not as good as you think you are. Okay, don't tell me you are the answer to my prayers. This is not OK Cupid. All right? do not. In fact, check your ego. Check whatever your ego is, and do not send me that. Okay? I don't want to know that you can solve my solutions. I don't want to know any of that stuff. I just want to see your work. That's number one. Okay? Number two, try not to be me. I'm gonna simmer this down a little bit. Number two, if you send me something, I know every tutorial that's online. I know every tutorial online. And what's worse is when I see my own tutorial sent to me. I have had so many tutorials that are mine, and I go, you've got to be kidding me. All you did was change out the type. I can, you know, you can see these things. I have seen people who have actually picked up Trish and Chris Meyer's book, How to Do After Effects, and send me every single tutorial in that book. Don't do that. Don't look at anybody else's stuff and say, you know what, I'm going to do this piece that kind of this inspired me. You got to get out of that. You got to break that kind of, this is what's going to carry me. All right, that's huge. I'm going to throw this at the teachers, and I hope there's no teachers in the room because I'm going to talk bad about you for a second. Okay, here's the deal.
And this is really degrading.
Shannon and I
jumped off the rails, guys.
Shannon and I went to dinner, and she's going, Dean, stop. Don't be yourself. I don't know who else to be. All right, so here's the fact. I went into the Art Institute the same as you. So when I take a project, or my instructor gives me a project, there are a list of rules of what to do. Challenge your instructor. Say, here's the deal. I'm cool with these. This is a basic guideline. But I need to bring me into this. Okay? This is what I do. I am a cartoonist, so yes, everything on here will be to your specifications, but they will be what I do. Do not lose yourself in school. Okay? I love school. I love teaching. I love instructors, and I love students. But I hate when people lose themselves. I hate when I see someone who's like, you know what, you're a genius, but you've watered this whole thing down. All right? Keep some semblance of yourself in your portfolio. It will be noticed. When it comes on my desk, it will be noticed. I go through a portfolio. I go through a tape, because I don't really look at portfolios in motion graphics. But I go through a tape, and I'm almost going back to VHS days. Hit play, watch for about 2 seconds. Oh my God, no. Hit play, watch for 2 seconds. Oh my God, no. And just till one person there's this spark of, oh, this is personality here. There's personality. I can work with this. I don't even care if you have skill. I care if you have personality that I can work with, that there's some life in you, okay? There are operators and designers. If you're gonna be an operator, then yeah, follow whatever path you want. If you're gonna be a designer, break that path, all right? Break what they're telling you to do, all right? Don't fail. Don't cuss a teacher out. But know that at the end of the day, your portfolio is your lifeline to the rest of your existence if this is what you do. It is the most important thing that you have. Your girlfriend is not important. Your boyfriend is not important. Your mother, your father, your dog, your cat. None of those are important as your portfolio. It is your lifeline to your career, to your existence. So, that's my spiel.
Yeah, just keep G from going crazy, so not everybody submit anime there. Enough of that.
Enough of that. Wow. That was amazing. It's right there. That's going on YouTube. Hashtag angry
Teacher.
Table flipping's after.
So glad he's not teaching me, you guys. I have 3 stories, and then I'm gonna real quick. I'm gonna agree with the last 2 people that I imagine Dungeon Crawlers was made with 2 programmers and outsourced art. And imagine that one guy, that was me, wrote 100 emails to 100 art studios and said, "Here's some concept art. Send me back something in 3D based on that concept art." Imagine what it's like to write that email 100 times and to get it back. And then on top of that, go to Siege and have 100 kids hand you a portfolio and say, "Hey, I want to be a part of that." It's mind-bogglingly time-consuming as one person in an indie studio. So realize, I'm just coming at this from the concept of as an indie, right? You want to be a part of a project, I can pay you, but you better frickin' wow my socks off. Here's the thing, when I was growing up, and this is going to be in my age, yeah. back when I was a kid. I went to computer camp, you guys. I went to computer camp. It was called CompuEd. It was in Massachusetts at a girls' dorm, so you know things were going down.
Where I learned to drink.
Where I learned to drink. So the thing was that we were ages 9 to 13. That was the age of everybody in the camp. We were all making games, and we were doing it in assembly because other forms of coding didn't exist. There were no tools. To put an image on the screen, I had to write code that read each byte of the image and then figure out if that's my transparency mask or not, and then draw that color onto the screen to that pixel. That doesn't exist anymore. Okay? And I was doing that. Sorry. That just you don't realize. I'm gonna say it. I can't believe I'm saying it. You kids don't know how good you got it. You got the tools. You've got everything you need. And so when I get a portfolio from somebody with nothing in it, like just a couple of 3 basic 3D things, like maybe a bird and a plane and Superman. It's like, all right, I'm not even going to waste my time asking you to. Here's like I like to give people art tests. I'll say, okay, here's what my game is. Here's a screenshot. Draw me a night in the theme of what the game looks like so far. show me that you can adapt to what I've got. I'm not even going to send that to you. There is no excuse for any of you coming out of college to not have a portfolio just miles long because you've got the tools, you've got the time. Do it. What are you doing all day? You know what I mean? Drinking? Take an hour. You know?
Play drink dungeon crawlers.
Yeah. But the question at hand was the worst case scenarios. I got one for me. This is not an art thing, but this is something that I did as a programmer coming out of college. So that's why I'm bringing up the story. There's the best book I ever read. Now pointless. 3D Math for Programmers. I forget who wrote it, but he's the chief programmer at Volition at the time. Okay, and I applied for a job there. And they said, you know, part of the interview process was, you know, they give you questions, you know, programming test. And one of the questions was, do you read any programming books and what are your favorite? And completely unwittingly, I go, 3D Math for Programmers is the greatest book of all time! And they go, and then I get the phone call, and we're interviewing on the phone, and they go, hey, so you know who wrote that book? I go, no. Lost the interview right there. That was the end of the interview. Because I didn't bother to do the research that the guy was on the phone with me was the writer of the book. So that's cautionary tale. But the two just examples of, so again, as an indie, if you go ever download Dungeon Crawlers, it's $1. It's not big deal. You'll see that there's character portraits. It's a lot. It's not that good. You'll see there's the characters have portraits. When you select the characters, there's a portrait on the bottom right of the screen. And those characters on the bottom right look like crap. They look like clay that's been photographed. It's very strange. That was the 17th iteration of that art. And the guy who was making me that art is a longtime friend, but he couldn't nail it. And I really wish he didn't waste my time telling me he was going to make it better, you know, and then I had to pay him for 16 iterations plus the final iteration, you know what I'm saying? So you got to know, definitely know when you're working with people who are on tight budgets, what you can tackle and what you can't tackle, you know what I mean? Because we never did get it right, and I never was going to spend more money to fix it. And then that's it. The game goes out like that. It's going to go out like that. People are going to look at it and say, why is there Gumby? You know, why is Gumby in my game? The second thing is the most recent one. Is I'm friends with one of the best pixel artists. Just such a great guy, such a great pixel artist. But I said to him, give me, you know, the theme of my game. We're doing like Donkey Kong. Give me that, but my theme, as an arcade game. And he brought me back an NES game. And if anybody's ever played an NES game or an arcade game, they'd understand that there's a huge difference. NES was a step down from the arcades back then because it's, you know, 8-bit color, a lot of palette shifting. It didn't look good, very blocky. Wasn't a lot of technical power for the NES back then. So he sent, you know, he gave me quite literally an NES game with an NES palette. I'm like, what are you doing? I know you can draw the best pixel art on the planet. Draw me the best pixel art. But he sent me an NES game. So that's just you know, a couple stories of the worst case.
Is that just like a 50% cushion?
Just I don't know. But that's what he sent me. And he sent it to me 5 times. Again, he iterated he iterated it 5 times, and 5 times I go, dude, you're still doing blocks. Like, we're not working with, you know, it's not a tile system.
More for like arcade, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of art.
Yeah.
I mean, that brings up a really good point, which is listen. I mean, you know, like listen to the art direction that you are getting and try to, if you don't understand the art direction, then ask another question until you do understand. Because if you're getting art direction and you're not paying attention, it's a killer. I mean, it's like you won't be hired again for anything else. Anyway, my example was, and I think what I'm hearing in everyone's comments, and I couldn't agree more with all of them, is just passion. Like, you know, your portfolio should show your personal passion. We want obsessed people. We want people who are passionate about one thing. I was talking to an art class in a small college, and we were just kind of, you know, mealy-mouthing, talking about drawing and perspective and shading, blah blah blah. And then and I said, well, what do you like? What are you passionate about? And this one artist, she came up and she had her sketchbook. She goes, well, I do these kind of like swords and designs. And I looked at it like, oh my God, this was like the most amazing weapon design I've ever seen. It was like these incredible, like, you know, Game of Thrones swords with like swirls. And I was like, holy shit, why didn't you show me this half hour ago? So, and I would rather see like a portfolio full of amazing swords than like 40 so-so pieces of art. Like, don't try to do everything badly. You know? At school you find out what you're passionate about and what you're good at. You know, if you're good at lighting, show me a ton of that. Like, find out what your passion is in college, but then iterate on it. Like, go crazy. Find your passion and then go crazy and show me the most examples of that you know I've ever seen. And then, you know, so that girl, she might not get every job, every game job in the world, but she's sure as hell going to get the sword job. I mean, if we want the sword designer, that's the, you know. So that's what you have to do. Like, aim for something. Don't try to do the shotgun approach. It's not going to work.
All right. Excellent. Well, then we'll go on to the next part. Well, I'm going to, just so everyone knows, I'm taking this panel on the road. So, comedy clubs near you. So the next area we'll go to is once they've gotten the job, because they were passionate, they submitted good professional work, and they got it right the first time for Josh.
Or they work for free.
No, I'd rather have good than free. I would rather have good than free, to be honest. But now they've got the job. What are the biggest mistakes people have done, the ways they have managed to get you to kick them off the job? We know that repeated iterations with no positive development fall into that one. This wasn't necessarily a firing offense, but it was definitely an embarrassing one. So in game dev now, we have ways that artists share their assets with other, with the rest of the team. Basecamp is a classic example of this. Various repositories for this. FTP sites were used back in the day a lot. We used to just have a company network where stuff would go up. And there was one artist we had working furiously like mad, heading toward deadline, making changes, pulling things in and out of the repository, until we go back and realize that every new piece he'd done for about the last week was gone, with no backup. Swore he saved them in there, all of them gone. And it wasn't necessarily just because we had a crappy homemade repository, but it was an example of the worst example of saying stuff over, not backing up, et cetera, et cetera. And you're on deadline, the pressures kick in, but that's exactly why you have the systems in place, because when the problems happen, it's that deadline you want to have those systems going. So that's the one example. You do have to be conscious and aware of what you're doing and aware of your role in the team, and that your stuff will go to the other people in the team. That's my first one about being actually working on the job. Be contract, employed, anything. Worst thing you've seen folks do once they're working. Let's go down this other way. Art, can we throw you on the hot seat?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think probably you know, there's this tendency to take. I mean, if you're artists, you should have some pride in your work, and if you have pride in your work, you're kind of resistant to direction, and we get that as art director, as artists. So you've been on both sides of the table. The person giving you art direction has also been the artist getting art direction, so everybody has gone through it. But what irks me the most is when the artist is kind of passively aggressively not following my direction. You know, they're like, yeah, you wanted it blue, but I really think teal is better, and so this is the sort of a tealish blue, and they're like, I said blue. You know, it's like, so that's a bad example, but you know, it's like, so really. Yeah, I know. Teal is not blue, for God's sakes.
Shades.
Oh, the endless teal battle.
Do I have to bring out the ultramarine? Do I have to bring out the Pantone? But you know, sort of, you do have to check your ego at the door. So you know, what we're telling you sort of is two sides of the same coin. We want a lot of passion and a lot of ego coming in, but at the same time, in a work situation, when you're part of a team, some part of that ego needs to be checked at the door, because really you are there to serve the project as best you possibly can, and to bring your genius, your particular passion to that project to make it better. So So you do, that's a challenge that all of us struggle with, young and old, is trying to kind of find that balance where you're speaking up for yourself. If you have a different viewpoint from the direction you're getting, give me a reason. Tell me why you think it should be different, and I'll respect that. I'll probably I might overrule you, but I will respect the fact.
Teal.
But I will respect the fact. Well, you can't use teal in a dungeon crawl. But, everybody knows that.
It's the first rule of gaming.
Exactly.
Don't use teal.
Don't use teal in the but I will respect your opinion if you just explain what you're thinking and sort of check that ego a little bit.
I honestly have nothing here.
With the artist you worked with?
Yeah, no, you know what? That's crazy.
Them, though.
Yeah, I did. The two biggest things, like, but other than those two things, it's weird. I've been pretty blessed with everybody I've worked with. They the thing about it is you have to keep, like, you never get. Justice Scalia said one time, like, I know porn when I see it.
And that's your artist.
And like, yeah, it's like, I need a guy who's like, I go, this is what I want, and I can't describe it. And he goes, oh, you mean this? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So I've had a lot of great people who just kind of, they read into my kooky brain, and they just pull it out, and they go, this is what you were looking for. So I don't have too many stars.
Okay, reasons that people.
But this guy.
Reasons that people got fired?
No,
or,
ended up in the bag
Oh, okay. All right. So.
Not because of World Policy.
All right.
in the car crash factory.
I'll talk about some reasons specifically also why students didn't get jobs, or not students, I should just say people didn't get jobs. A couple of things that happened where I actually got hired by, when I got hired in Florida for the art director's position, I got hired with the stipulation that I was firing somebody.
Come and do the bad guy.
This was what I was told. Yeah, that is hardcore. Like, I'm 24 years old. 24 years old. The guy.
Do you know why we called you in here today?
The guy is. That's my first thing I was told. So he's 45, has been in the business for a really long time. I know nothing about nothing. And I was brought in, and they said, can you fire him? And I was like, hell yeah, I can fire him. I don't know him. So I gotta lose sleep over this. Now if I know him, then yeah, there's gonna be a problem. All right, so I said this, truly believing that I was like, you know what, this guy is out the door, I'm getting someone in the next day. Because I asked, I said, we're firing him, but I get to hire somebody, right? That's how this works. Because, in this day and age, if you fire somebody, you're not getting somebody back in. You're just down a man. So I walked in, and I went out, and I took him to lunch. And I freaking thought he was funny and cool and awesome. And I went to my boss and I said, I'm not going to fire him. I said, until he proves to me that there's a reason to fire him, I can't see the justification of me firing him. And I just can't do it. And she goes, everybody in this building basically wants him fired.
Oh.
Now, here's the thing. If everybody in the building wanted that person fired, take note that there's a reason. And just because you don't see it, and if everybody agrees to it, there is a reason. So, this basically, he stayed on board for a year. And what happened was, one day, my office was kind of separated from the art department. The art department's here, my office is here, and the door to leave my office, you don't see when I come and go. So I worked, like a normal 9-to-5 job type thing. And I came in on a project. And I didn't want to bug the artist because this was broadcast news, so it's a live news situation. You don't mess with them. You just go about your business, you walk into the room, you don't interact. It's a live situation. One of the producers walks in and gives him a map or something. And he goes, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, oh my, what's that? I'm like, what's going on over there? He goes, how long have you lived here? He goes, blah, 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 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. He's like, well, you should know the street by now. You shouldn't give me fucking directions like a little girl. How this is happening? This is happening, right? And I just pull my chair over. Basically to the door, because I'm like, I'm not missing this. And I'm not stopping this. Because there's a sick side of me that wants to see how this ends. Like I knew I could stop it. I could walk in there and go, Jim, is there a problem? I'm like, no, this is gold. So he continues to berate this producer. And I mean, it got ugly and maybe a little racist.
So racist you
A sprinkling tad of kind of country bumpkin came out of him. And I'm just going, wow. And then, the news leaves and I go, well, I ain't going home now. So I just sit in my office contemplating, what do you do? Do you fire him? What do you do? So I go, right, I figured, you walk in there, and here's the thing, the guy's like 6'4", and I'm kind of scrappy, but I know who I can, and I cannot take. I wasn't taking this guy. And after hearing him talk, I was a little bit afraid. So what I did was when the news finishes at 11 o'clock, I just came in and I sat down at the other computer and started working. So he would know that I was there. He goes, hey, Dean. I'm like, hey, Jim. How's it going? Good. And he's just silent. So usually there would be a banter back and forth. This is a very talkative man. The next day, we fired him.
Did you hire someone to fire?
No. The next day I went to my boss because the thing was, you're working for a corporation and you actually can't just go fire somebody. If you think you can, you're in the lawsuit world. If you go in and ever think, I don't care what art director or what creative, if you go in there and just go, you're fired without talking to HR first, you've probably lost your job. Okay, so that's just something to remember. Now, if you're a smaller place, then get them out of there. You're out, you're gone, you're history. This is a corporation, I have no power. So HR called him in and we had a meeting and, Jim, I heard you. You want to deny it? He's like, no. I'm like, well, you got to go. So, security pulled him up. So.
Were they required?
Huh?
Were they required to go?
They're actually, because when you're in a news building, there's always security.
Well, I meant like, did he put up a fight?
No.
Oh.
It's how it works in that situation is that HR has to be in the room. Whoever's the senior has to be in the room. Whoever's doing the firing has to be in the room. And the guy who's going out.
Right.
And they have to just collect their things. They have, I think, like 10, 15 minutes to gather up their stuff, get out, and you can schedule another time to come in. So, needless to say, anger. Curb it. One of the things I say to most of my guys, and I have an issue, I have some anger issues. I've got some problems. There is nothing we do on a day-to-day basis that has killed anybody in art. There really hasn't. No one has ever died from a game, from motion graphics, from a comic book. I hope not, that I know of. No one has ever died. Curb, it's usually the anger is because of a situation. Okay, you need to remember that. It's a situation that's happening. It's not the person, all right? Curb your anger. Curb your tendency to lash out, especially when, the map was wrong. Okay, we get it. You should know more about this area. You're the producer. You should know this information. It shouldn't be left up to the artist. Those words should not have come out. The sprinkle of racism shouldn't have come out.
What's crazy is they were both white.
Actually, they were. Actually, the other guy was gay.
Oh, that guy.
So that was, no, if you call me fat, that's racism to me. My people, but the point was, it was about, this person's lifestyle. And to me, that was just, you've gone past where we can fix this. In fact, if you would have just cussed them out, I'd have probably not cared. You went down a road that we are gonna have to do something about. And I'm just gonna give now on the other end a lighter tale. If you come and show your portfolio, this is a true story, and you have taken a photography class, do not show me pictures of your naked girlfriend.
Or do.
Or if you're flying. I'm just saying, student came out of the school.
Veto.
And he had some decent work too. This is the sad thing. I'm just going, that's pretty good. But it's it's the same thing we've talked about. It is student work, and you're kind of going, well, yeah, I promise, but it's the same old stuff that the guy before you showed. And then, oh, look at the tatas. And he goes, that's my girlfriend. And there could not be a more awkward moment in my life. Going, because here's the thing you do. Do you look down? Do you turn the page? It's conundrum. Because everything in you wants to go, really? She's kind of cute. Do you have any more? So, needless to say, I didn't want to embarrass him. So I kept turning the pages. Good lighting. And back then it's not digital, so like, you develop these yourself? And you just go through and you have some small talk and you just go, thank you very much. I will never be calling you again.
So, those are my two stories.
I'll follow that. In general, I was going to talk about attitude in the workplace, which kind of ties into both anger and being able to take direction. And attitude is really contagious, and right now we're really fortunate to have people with really positive attitudes in our entire art department, and it's great. And it's not always like that. And when you have one person with a negative attitude, they bring down the rest of the team, and it's infectious, and other people get that same negative attitude. Whether it's listening and trying to take direction and trying to communicate and finding out what the director really wants, there's an attitude element to that. There's an attitude element in caring about the ultimate product and wanting to work on that product and make it the best product you can. And there's an attitude element in blowing up over little things, and that really infects the workplace and makes people just not want to work there. So having people with negative attitudes in the workplace is one of the worst things in the workplace, I think.
All right. I deal in an industry that you're dealing with a lot of different kinds of personalities. I mean, I was in a post-production facility where the CEO of the company screamed that he wanted to pee and threw a mug at my head. I had to matrix out of the way. And throughout all of it, you have to remain diplomatic, because your reputation is what carries you. Someone can be an absolute jerk, and you can just say, well, you can curse and scream, to yourself. Write a whole long, lengthy email and never send it. But then when it comes down to dealing with them, it's their problem. Don't make it yours. And even if you are the person who's hired and you're dealing with the client, and they're just like, yeah, well, I said I wanted a dragon with a cheetah print shirt. No, you didn't. I said nothing like that. What are you even talking about? You're being very clear in your communication is absolutely important. One thing that I see people do when going into a situation is not communicating. You know, just agreeing to something, underbidding. Oh God, that's something huge. Because if you underbid, people are naturally gonna want to have them. You know, you don't highball to the point where they're just like, yeah, you're too expensive and you're not that good. I can find somebody else that's cheaper. But you know, figure out a price that you want. Go a little bit higher, and more than likely they'll negotiate, or they'll say yes, and that's not bad. Knowing your time parameters, knowing what you can actually achieve in an amount of time, because if you say like, yeah, I can draw an entire comic book, or I can create, you know, I can create a whole video game in a week. Maybe. A month. Being realistic saves both you and the client time. You know, so knowing your price, knowing your time frame. Wait, I wrote other things down. Yes.
Reading your notes.
Definitely listening is important, because as much, you know, as we have our creative input, the client has a vision too. And it'll save you a lot of time if you listen and ask the right questions so you can meet that vision and then get on to the next project. Because while you're trying to, you know, fight and debate about, you know, what you think this should look like, you could be working on something else. You know, and so if you say, okay, explain to me what you want again. You want a dragon with a cheetah print shirt. Is this in vector? Like, what? Just get all the information that you can, and don't overproduce. Don't create this big, massive, epic thing if you can create a sketch first, and then agree, you know, as you go along. Like, all right, we've gotten to this point. You've agreed on this. Now we can move on to finals, because if you do a whole bunch of finals, you're wasting your time. You know, you want to be able to maximize your productivity and therefore maximize your ability to create. And being aware of those time constraints is just a part of any other business. Like if you're building a house, you're like, okay, I'm going to need these materials, it's going to cost this much, this is how much I want to make per hour, and both you and the client are happy. You know, so just maintaining that real clear level of communication will save you many headaches.
Piggyback on that?
Sure.
A lot of times people will think they want something because they have a problem they want to solve. Like they have a goal they want to meet, and they think this thing meets that goal. So if you can find out what their goal is with this thing, you probably know a better way, or can collaborate to find a better way to beat the actual goal.
Very true.
Since they don't know the process.
Right. A lot of times people who are hiring, they have no idea. They have no idea at all. Like they'll say something like, yeah, can you just turn this around? It's like, this is a 2D drawing. This is a flat drawing. It's like, can you urbanize this? I was like, what does that even mean? It's like, yeah, so exactly that.
Okay, so we've learned that to get the job you need passion. Once you have the job, you need to get rid of that passion. We're about out of time. So let me get each one of the panelists to go ahead and give one tip that they think that everyone should know. This would be the good part of it. One tip they think they should know, or if you have a really horrible story you think would make a great warning, you share that too. I'll go ahead and start. The one tip for folks who are looking to get jobs that I strongly recommend, again, focus on having only professional quality assets in your demo reel or up online, and know the companies to which you're submitting If you have a variety of good assets, give them the ones that are most appropriate to them. If you only have a few good assets, just keep handing those off to people, because you don't want to give them anything garbage. The number of times that a good portfolio has died because somebody sees one asset that's no good and says, all right, next one. They're like Josh, they got 200 people applying, and time for the next one is just all good. All professional and focus on that company. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. As you're creating your body of work, everyone was talking about, just not giving the same things over and over again. And the way to do that is to be innovative. You can draw from things outside of your discipline. Like most innovation occurs when you combine other things that you know. When you specialize in one particular thing and one particular thing only, if you're just going by the rules and what has been done, then that's all you're going to create. It's like, all right, I have this bowl of jelly beans, and so I'm just going to keep, digging into this one bowl. That's all you're ever going to have. Like if you enjoy biology and you're creating, character designs, you can utilize the things that you want to study in biology with your characters. Like, all right, well, I'm going to create these crazy spiders. But because you've gone outside of that parameter, you can now draw into that. So when you're creating it, you just can't rely on the dry well of existence. You've got to go outside of those parameters. And that's where you'll really find innovation. Like once you really start like seeking other things, just utilizing logic, the trivium, like just learning how to learn and then applying that to your work. People can feel that. They can feel the passion, and doing so requires research and time. Short and sweet.
I'd say, like when you're doing your own projects, set realistic goals that you're not going to get overwhelmed by, and finish the project. Because if you don't finish any of your own personal projects, you won't have anything in your portfolio. You won't finish anything. So even though you've been working on a project for a long time and you can kind of get tired of looking at it, just make it habit to finish that project before starting the next one. Or, I mean, if you have a couple at the same time, I guess that's fine too. But just make sure you finish them so you can get more work done.
Remember that dev cycles in the game industry can be a year or more, so if you get sick of something in one quarter, you're going to have some trouble down the line.
Oh, piggybacking on that, everyone has like this magnum opus that they've been writing since they were 9. Break it up. Like everybody has a great idea, but just like you said, finish it. And if you can't create the giant 20 chapter book, break it up into something smaller that you can finish, and that'll definitely improve your confidence. Because if you're not confident in completing your own projects, you're not really going to complete anybody else's.
I would say so motion graphics is a little bit different insofar as, we have to, most of the time, kind of like the one-man band, we have to know how to come up with the concept all the way to how to finish the concept. So there's a lot of software involved. There's a ton of software that's needed. One of the things that I will have you working that day, you would be the first hire, is know your software. I mean, be proficient at it. Because even if you're not the strongest designer that's walked in, if you can generate work on the day you walk in the door, if I can actually, everything is billable time with us. So we're always, here's what the job is, and the faster we get it done, the more money we make. Now, we don't tell the clients that, but if I book out a job for a month and I can get it done in 4 days, then that month I do deliver. Don't hand anything in those 4 days. And it's because whoever I'm working with knows the equipment. They can just sit down and just what do you need? I need this, 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 this. Got it. If I have to sit down and start training you, then we're basically losing money, we're losing time. So really be proficient at the software. The other thing is, the internet has so many free resources. There is no one who should walk into any job in this field and wanted to start as a beginner, a junior, that shouldn't be pretty proficient in the software. I mean, anything that you want, you can Google and say, what's a Bezier curve? I have no idea. Blah, 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 blah. There's 10 Bezier curves, and there's some guy from India who's 12 who's just showing it to me. Wow! That's amazing. So be proficient. If you're proficient in your software, you've already stepped in the door. I mean, I can make money off of you. Okay. 2, design seems to be slipping away for some reason. I don't know what happened. And maybe there's too many people are proficient at the software and forgot about the core of what we do. If you can draw, show me you can draw. The person who can draw will probably get in the door. If you're both proficient at this piece of software, let's say After Effects is our bread and butter. You're both proficient at After Effects. I can't really tell the difference where you're at, but you can draw. You're in. Because at the end of the day, when we're concepting, we don't want to spend a lot of time getting on the computer to convince the client which direction to go. So we're storyboarding. We're concepting with pencil and paper still. That's the most cost-effective way to try and get your client to get on board with the idea. Once they're on board with those pencil drawings, then we can spend the laborious part of software. We render. Everything is rendered. There's hours and hours and hours of rendering to get our projects done. So if we can get that done in the illustrations, and we're not designing in the software, we're making money. Okay? So if you can draw, get stronger at drawing. It's just as important as the software. The other thing, and this happened the other day, I take in interns all the time. And they don't last long. And I kind of, and it could be for whatever reason. And one of the reasons the last intern probably is, and I might take her back on, but one of the reasons, the main reason she does not intern with me is because of a conversation we had. Went to lunch, and I asked her, I go, what would make you happy?
I'm scared. It doesn't involve anything much, does it?
I said, and the thing is, I should have said, you better get it right. This is Leah. Shannon knows all my interns. That's my girlfriend over there. So she's over here. Who is it? I want to know before they do. So I asked her, what would make you happy? Like right now, what's the thing you need to do? And she said, I want my parents to stop bugging me, and I want more friends. And I, in my head, said, wrong answer. The only answer should be, I want to do a great piece of work. That's all I want to hear. Because I don't care about the personal life. I don't. I want you to be as obsessed as I am. I'm sorry. And Shannon knows I'm a little fanatic about that. But I'm here to do good work. That is all I want to do. That's all I want to produce. Every single day, even if I have a frickin' schlock client, I want to do the best I can. And I want whoever's working with me to have that same attitude. Because if they're not in it 110%, why are we going to work together? Why am I paying you? Why am I paying you to go and think about, oh, my boyfriend, his shoes, wonder what the guys are doing tonight? That's not the concern I want. I want the concern is this the right teal? Or is this blue? I want you to get up and look for the fucking Pantone chart. I want you to care about the blue. I mean, as silly as that is to say, I want you to care about the font you chose. I want you to care about what message you're trying to get across. I want you to care about the emotion that you're putting into this piece. I want you to care that we're going to put something out that we're proud to show. And it's not just something that we're hiding. And we made $20,000 on this job. We can never show anybody because it's ugly. We made money, but it's ugly. I can't live with that. And most really great shops will feel the same way. And most art directors will feel the same way. They want someone who's in it, who's 110% in it. They want obsessed. They want the sword girl. They want something that on your free time, you know what, you're doodling. You're, playing, like I'm a Bioshock fan. You're playing Bioshock, but at the same time, you're sketching a freaking Big Daddy. Because you have to, because you need to, because you can't sleep until it comes out. I want that person. All right? Yeah, I want the person who carries the sketchbook. If you show me sketches, like this is what I do on my free time, holy crap, one, I'll admire you. And that's, okay, creatives, we are an emotional people. All right? And we can be crippled really, really easily in our emotions. We need, like you said, those people, you have that good group. You want that good group that rises every single person in the room with them. That they're sketching, so you're going, I gotta go get a sketchbook. Look at freaking him. He's got a sketchbook. He's making me look bad. I gotta get a sketchbook. I want that group. That they're, talking about the stuff. So I think it's important that, it's the art, it's the craft. Bring those two to the table and you got it. And then don't get angry. In my studio. And then we're good.
I took a quick vote and yeah, serial murderer. I think we've been playing you the whole time, you guys. You're not an art director.
And in terms of, is it ever coming back? Is that what you're saying?
I got two real quick things I'll say. The first one's a light note. Any of you guys watch Community, know who Donald Glover is?
Yeah.
So he got his first job, he's a writer really, not an actor, but he became an actor. He got his first job writing for 30 Rock. That was the first job he ever had. And because, here's how he got the job. And this is how it is, I'm a comedian, this is what you do to get jobs like that, is you write spec scripts. And a spec script is when you take an idea of something everybody already knows, like Friends, and you write an episode of Friends that you created, right? So I wrote my own episode of Friends, and then you shop that around, and people go, oh, this guy can write, he's funny, I'll hire him to be on my writing team. He wrote an episode of The Simpsons where the Simpsons move into a black neighborhood. Okay. And my point to what I'm saying is, no one has ever submitted to me like a black Mario, and that would be totally awesome. Or Mexican Link. You can do that. My point is you can do that. You can play on my emotions by giving me something I already know and say, look at how badass I can not just make Mario, but I also made him with a little bit of Shaft, and he's totally. That reference is too old. But anyways, so that's just don't be afraid to be wonky with it and do something that I instantly will recognize and go, oh, I know what he was doing there, and I respect that effort, right? But the second thing is, download a copy of Unity. Put 10 together, $10 each. Group of 5 people, pay $50. And buy a complete project. They have actual complete projects on your summer free. And take your art and put them into the stupid project and then build a game and use that as part of your portfolio. Like, there is no reason that as artists, you're not handing me executables where I can load up your game and see your art in action. If you want to make a game, if that's what you guys want to do, if that's why we're all sitting here right now, I want to be in the games industry, make a game. Before I ever got my first job, and I can show it, if you guys find me on my website or whatever, I'll send to you my first game that I used as my portfolio. It's not the first game I ever made, but the first game I used to submit for jobs was a Game Boy Advance game, because I downloaded instructions on how to hack a Game Boy Advance and learned how to code a Game Boy Advance with no developer's kit and wrote a Game Boy Advance game that I put onto a cartridge and shipped to people. And that's how I got my first game. So do it. If you want to make games, make a game. There's nothing stopping you. And that's how you're going to get a job, is by taking that extra initiative, that extra step. So, there you go.
What I want to say is, you guys you're at an art school. I would say that, to echo what was said before about the keep a sketchbook. You all should be keeping a sketchbook every day. You should, and when you get old, you should have shelves full of sketchbooks because you know if you're able to leave the school and go out into the world and make a career with your art, that's amazing. I mean, that's really hard to do. And if you're able to do that, you consider yourself lucky because other people can't draw, they can't do what you can do, but don't lose that artist in yourself. Like, don't lose the art, the little, you know, when you were 9 years old, sitting on the ground, you know, drawing spaceships or princesses or butterflies or whatever you were doing, remember that part of yourself and don't lose the artist in you, no matter who you work for. Keep a sketchbook, draw in it every day, and it'll pay off.
All right, thanks to our panel very much.